The pieces lie where they fell by evil humor. Chapter 6. Rex. Biting back a yawn, Rex shifted on his hind paws as he awaited his turn to get into the warehouse with the rest of the clients that were preparing the honor festival's various wares for the equestrians. It was a nice enough time, he supposed, as he took another step forwards. When the equestrians more or less opened their borders to their capital city, and had members of the fifth and sixth tribes welcomed in, opposed to being tolerated as equals at best, and treated as oddities. That, in conjunction with tourists being treated to discounts across the entirety of Canterlot, made this the ideal time to venture out and place one's trade on the table, in the hope that one would be noticed and welcomed into the higher levels of society. Of course, the sole exception would be the fourth tribe. Despite their constant claims of unity at such festivals, and promises that the place for the supposed changeling monarch to take along the stage with the other five tribes' representatives would not result in any negative action against said changeling. Even the dullest of diamond dogs knew that was a bold-faced lie. With the stories the changelings told his kind when they fled into the under during this festival, or to other locations, opposed to underneath the labyrinthian ruins and caves of the sprawling city of Canterlot. Rex narrowed his eyes at the thought of his former home, the taste of granite in his mouth as the negative memories came back to fore. As per norm, the diamond dog forced the ideas out of place and placed himself back on the topic at paw. He had his merchandise to acquire from the warehouse, transport his craft to the stand, and ensure all was ready for magic mixture and secured connection to take over from him. Breaking off his mild musings, Rex stepped forwards as the stallion in front of him had finished his business with the service pony behind the desk, and she called him forth without lifting her head from the magazine she was reading through. It was clearly evident when Rex stood in front of the counter that the mare was doing her best not to react to his species not being equine. "Hello there, ma'am." The Doberman Pinscher diamond dog smiled cheekily, taking a minute amount of pleasure at her scrambling to put forth a proper face for a client. "I would like to retrieve the contents of my locker, if you would be so kind." "Of course," she replied. "Do you have your key, sir?" "Yes," he answered, holding the key for 4/14/1984 in his paw, that he had retrieved from his vest side pocket. "If you would be so kind." Bobbing her head as all was good as silver, she allowed him to pass unimpeded into the building, with her sneaking a glance at him as he left the service corridor, apparently forgetting there was a mirror down the hallway that allowed Rex to see her actions. That action reminded Rex of how much he disliked the mindset of the more aristocratic civilians of the upper section of Canterlot, but he paid it no mind, as hopefully tonight and the morrow would be the vein of gold that would be the catalyst for the next step of his plans. If it turned out to be pyrite instead, he always had his workshop in the center of Canterlot where he could try again to further his name and trade, despite it being a sign of insanity for him to try the same procedure with no variants and expect a different result. Passing by the other renters of storage lockers with a polite "excuse me" or greeting, he reached his location in good time and found that the locker door was untouched since he had been there last, and the small tell was still in place. Pocketing his special spectacles and retrieving the key to his locker once more, Rex opened the door to see the hand truck was where he had left it, with the boxed crates already on the trolley, exactly as he had prepared it when he deposited his work here. Pulling the trolley out of the storage room with a wag of his tail, he closed the door behind him with a stretch of his arm, and pushed the trolley down the hallway to the exit for items such as his. Breathing in the fresh mountain air, he could see hints of the morning sun over the horizon as it began to make its journey around their world. Some had said it was an act of the goddess Celestia, who was still seeing to her duties even beyond the grave, while he, like a number of others, tended to go for a more scientific answer and described that gravity was in charge. Of course, it would be horribly impolite to voice these thoughts to those who believed in the goddesses and the fabled virtues as well. Oh, and the fabled virtues, as well as improper, as they lacked the proper means to prove that the equestrian mythology was just fables. Send Providence to the luckless fool who made that discovery, and would be the coal that set the church ablaze with new indisputable facts. Shaking his head, as his thoughts were running wild as a new cook melting his first batch of ores, Rex travelled on the path he had taken earlier that day as he made his way back towards the inn he was lodging at, where the honor festival was just a turn around the bend. It was a true stroke of luck that he had managed to find a vacancy in an inn so close to the festival grounds, although paying for it was as easy as pebbles, as all he needed to do was produce a small number of emeralds to sway the innkeeper to allow him to stay. He caught some commotion coming from within the inn, an ear flicking as he heard some carefree singing coming from the inn, which was odd, as it was currently full of male griffins as far as he recalled. Of course, it seemed he was eating pyrite, as he did not take care to stay away from the doorway as someone barreled into him, knocking everything to the ground. "Ooh, that wasn't smart," the other muttered, female by the tone of the voice. "You okay? Wow, you're a diamond dog." Brushing off his jacket, Rex glared up at the Minotaur. "You're quite astute, madam, in describing species." He huffed, noticing that the hand truck was going down the hill to hit the sidewalk, and that his crates were lying on the ground, although they seemed undamaged. "Heh, I guess so," the Minotaur said, while scratching her head and looking around helplessly. "Do you need a hand with this?" she offered, while Rex was already trying to figure out how to get everything back onto the trolley. Rolling his eyes, he mouthed off, "Only if you can lift one of those crates by yourself, madam. Otherwise—" He trailed off the retort as she picked up both crates without any effort. He chuckled. "Well, I suppose I ate the charcoal there." He turned to cross the street and gather his hand truck, coming back to her and saying, "Thank you. You can place them down on the hand truck if you do not mind." "Nah," she shook her head, making a dismissing sound. "I'm good, Double D. So, where do you need this stuff?" Rex paused and looked at her, musing at the word Double D before the nugget dropped. "Ah, I see. How very cute. My name is Rex, madam." "Ah, I'm Vix Lee," she smirked at him, walking alongside him. "I'd give paw and shake, but I'm kinda got my own full at the moment." He shot her a dirty look, seeing that this Minotaur was one of those people. "Charmed, Miss Lee," he said as curtly as he could. She seemed to miss his tone, chuckling as she reintroduced herself and clarified her name was all one thing. Carelessly shuffling his property around, she continued to say, "So what's in these boxes? Bones?" Yes, this Minotaur was definitely one of those bigoted sorts. Giving her a more pointed look and shaking his head in the negative, he replied, "Nothing as unimportant as bones, Vix Lee. These are my associates and my merchandise, which are a touch on the fragile side of things, so please do your best not to jostle them around." "Ah, sorry," she apologized weakly. "So, what's in these boxes?" Feeling no need to tell her what he had, he simply said, "Special merchandise, Vix Lee. that is quite fragile, while placing emphasis on the word fragile to get it through to her head. He then let out a sigh, realizing he was acting too harsh. He turned to explain to her, in the most simple of terms. They contain blank slates for our product that will act as the conduct for the reclaimed love identification spell between the two individuals in question. Okay, she muttered, in a tone that informed him that he was not simplistic enough. Pulling out his identification card for the festival guards, she asked him, "So, how do you fit in all this? I mean," she elbowed him rather harshly, continuing to belittle him with a typical Diamond Dog speech pattern by saying, "You is Diamond Dog, not Unicorn. I mean, are you some sort of hired help?" Bristling at her continued insults, he narrowed his eyes and told her plainly, "No, Miss Lee, I am not hired help. As I have previously stated, I am a third-party member to my associate's business, and I am actually the main provider of the formula for the spell." "Oh, wow. I didn't know that diamond dogs knew how to use magic," she said, still condescendingly towards him, as if he did not know about his own species' limitations. "Diamond dogs do not have access to the arcane, Miss Lee, so I need to use other methods to achieve my craft," he barked at the Minotaur, squeezing the handles of his trolley too tightly, with his diamond dog's strength deforming the metal. Seeing as he was in front of his stand, he forced himself to remain the bigger dog and told her, "Here we are. If you would be so kind as to place the merchandise down, everything will be fine as diamonds." "'Kay," she said, placing his crates onto the counter, with Rex racing around to the other side to open and check the contents. He started to unpack the necklaces, making sure to get out the stands in a place where they would attract the most attention, when she asked, rather bluntly, "So, you're on the approved list of stuff, right?" "We will be once Lord Blade gives us his stamp of approval. Why do you ask?" He turned to face her, with some of his potions in his pocket moving around. He made a mental note to make sure they were all secure once this Vix Lee character was gone. "Well, I know that the Honor Festival for the Pony's Dead Heroes and Gods is tomorrow, and if you can get your hoof in the door, you'll be able to do all sorts of stuff, and—" "Ah, so that was her goal all along." Snorting at her, he responded by saying, "And you wish for me to place my name and my associates on the edge for some tour that has a very questionable sense of comedy with a respected noble house?" Shaking his head at her foolishness, he turned to face her. "I may be a diamond dog, but that does not mean I am an imbecile." He then slammed his paws onto a crate so he could stare directly into her face. "Now, if you are quite done with your racist commentary, I would appreciate it if you would leave me be so I can finish my preparations." "All right, geez, you just had to say no." She glared as if he were the unreasonable one, muttering things to herself before finally leaving him in peace. Straightening the collar of his vest, Rex continued to unload and prepare his stand for tonight. It was close to 2 hours later when Rex finally caught word that Lord Blade was making his rounds and would be inspecting the stalls at random if his neighbor behind was anything to go by. He was not sure if he should retire before the Nox pony arrived or maintain the fort, but the choice was taken from him as 2 young adults arrived, one being a yellow-coated unicorn mare, and the other being the Nox pony of the hour, if the signet ring on his wing was any indication. "Here, Paige, this is what I wanted to show you," the stallion told the mare, surprising Rex. As far as he was aware, the young Blade wasn't seeing anyone. "Forever find true love," the mare read with a hint of amusement in her voice. "Oh, Knight," she cooed, sniggering to herself and lightly swatting the stallion's side. I have done some research into this reclaimed spell, and Knight trailed off as he noticed Rex's appearance. Hello, good sir. The stallion bowed his head politely before stepping forwards. I presume you were a partner of this kiosk? Indeed. Rex bowed his head forwards too, moving to a pamphlet that explained the entire work to the couple. I myself provided the foundations of this reclaimed spell by researching old mythology of the changelings, and found notations that long-stationed harvesters had ways of finding their target based on the love that had flown between the two individuals? The mare asked, holding the pamphlet to her face. Yes, exactly. Rex blinked in awe and confusion. How did you know this? I am a ward at the Great Library, and I have had time to pursue a wide range of topics. Her answer was perfectly rational, and yet something dug at the back of his head. Nodding his head, the young blade turned to face Rex again. And you claim to have a recreation of the spell? In a manner of speaking, yes, Rex said, as he flipped a page of the pamphlet to show how he had done his work. With these specially crafted glasses, I am able to see the magic ether with my alchemic knowledge. And with my alchemic knowledge, I was able to recreate the spell to work in my modified fashion. My colleagues, both unicorns, can do the procedure as originally intended, and will do so tonight and tomorrow. Rex explained, with Knight and his mare friend nodding in understanding that few would believe a diamond dog could do such a thing. Of course, he had to prove himself first. Placing his glasses on his nose and pulling out his inverted iron tongs, he looked at the two. If I may prove my worth? Both of the equines shared a look before nodding at him. What do we need to do? Knight asked him. I just need both of you to think of the other while extending your magical ethers, Rex informed the two, with both of them closing their eyes and concentrating on the task. Using his tongs to extract the auras, he placed the ethers in a necklace's segments, watching how the ethers were struggling to join each other. In his research, this had happened for those truly in love with the other, and he felt a sense of joy that these two had each other. Pulling the necklace apart in its two pieces, Rex presented the necklaces to his first customers, who placed it around their necks. Now to activate it, all you need to do is say, "Find my love," and your special Sunpony's name. Blade looked at Paige and said, "Find my love, Page Turner." As Rex knew it would happen, the necklace began to move towards the mare. Not her necklace, but the source of the connected ether. By the virtues, it actually works, the mare gasped, before repeating the action by saying his name. This is simply marvelous, Nightblade said, wrapping a wing around Page Turner. You are a part of the Academy, correct? Not yet, but I do hope to gain their eye after the festival with my work getting my tail in the door, and become part of their alchemic division at the very least, he admitted freely, feeling himself blush as he told these two strangers of his goals. Well, I can talk to my brother Deepblade about getting you an interview with the Dean, providing your craft works, of course, Nightblade said reasonably enough, clearly not wishing to risk his own name on such an unknown element. Thank you very much, sir, Rex said, holding out his paw to shake the hoof of the young lord, who returned the gesture. He then noticed a pair of approaching unicorns. Ah, my associates are here. I wish you two a great time and a good festival. He moved his way to the front of the stall and bobbed his head towards the couple. Before he could leave, the mare stepped in front of him and held out several silver luna in her green aura. Here, Page Turner said with a smile. Take. Oh, ma'am, you are far too kind, Rex blushed, holding out his paw in protest. I can't take these. I insist, Page said, pushing the coins into his paw. If any pony could help prove how Nighty loves me more, It's the least I could do." "Nighty?" Nightblade asked in a bemused tone, with the mare nuzzling his cheek and whispering into his ear. Rex smiled to himself as the young couple were lost to each other, going to talk to Magic Mixture and Secured Connection about final preparations tonight. Tomorrow, if everything went as planned, it would be just rubies for him for the rest of his life. So for Chapter 6, we do not see Vittel again, but we do see some of the people we haven't seen for the last chapter, so it was all sort of like that. Anyway, it is... Well, I suppose that was true of the Griffin, too, a little bit. Anyway, I... I've got nothing. Goodbye, everybody. See you next time.